Last week, those of us who gathered together in the chapel for our first jazz brunch of the season began to talk about the word sanctuary. This is a word we're going to be talking about this fall. What is it? Who is it for? How do we make it? And how do we welcome people to it once we do? We also began looking at the prophet Jeremiah, and we talked last week specifically about God's instruction to Jeremiah to go to the potter's studio and to watch her work her magic on her clay, on her wheel. We imagined artist studios as a sort of sanctuary, a sanctuary where it's okay to fall apart and to begin to be reformed into an even stronger and more beautiful shape. We thought of God the potter, pulling each of us into our center and molding our lives ever more intricately into something of great strength. We did this last week around tables, round and round the tables, with children's laughter peppering the liturgy and with our choir having returned for their first Sunday after summer break. And today we return to this sanctuary, and I to this pulpit for the first Sunday after our summer discussion series on the book of Genesis. And after a pretty fun hymn sing, and after a June that was so full, so musical. What a summer it was. And as we move through worship today, you'll note that it may feel fuller. That's because it is. And over the past 5 years, we have practiced being a reformed and always reforming people. Over the past 5 years, we have reformed our worship more quickly and more severely than I dare say at any point in history. The pandemic taught us early on that protocols one Sunday wouldn't cut it for the next one, and so week after week we invented and tried and failed and reinvented and eventually came up with something that worked for most of us most of the time. Remember when we came to see our homes as such a sanctuary? And each of our kitchen tables that we gathered together at the Lord's Supper became holy altars where we made the sacrifices of our day and where we nourished ourselves on screens with one another. As we emerged from the pandemic, we made modifications to this sanctuary. These televisions arrived, soundboards arrived. We held true to our promise that none of us were coming back to this building sanctuary until all of us could come back to it. And we worked hard, and again, we invented, we failed, we tried again, we reinvented worship modes that kept us spiritually faithful and also personally safe. From that moment to this moment, we've gradually added things back into the service. We've continued listening to what is the particular worshiping voice of West End Church. Have you ever thought about that? That each church, like each of you, has a distinct voice for how it joins the heavenly choir. This church has a different pitch than the church just down the street. This church has a different tone and a different rhythm than the church just up the street. Together, all of our voices are needed for that heavenly choir, and we have listened to this worshipful mode and this voice here at West End to adapt and to grow, to cling to our nature as a church reformed and always reforming. In this morning's scripture, we heard from the prophet Jeremiah, a real Debbie Downer. You're only getting 3 weeks of him, I promise. We also heard from the Gospel of Luke. We heard this wonderful parable. The prophecy we hear today in Jeremiah describes the earth as complete chaos. Anybody here use this phrase recently? And sometimes I struggle to follow the light that I see, but I count it as a blessing that I, unlike Jeremiah, have yet to witness the heavens as having no light at all. Luckily for me and for many of us, maybe all of us, the stars have not completely lost all their luster. The moon may be waning or waxing, but it is not extinguished. nor has the sun burnt itself into darkness. For the darkness around us is deep, but there are these little lights, still lighting the path. Squint as we may have to do to find them, there may be chaos, as Jeremiah warns. There may be chaos. And either fortunately or not, I dare say there is more than enough light for us to see that chaos wherever we look. And in the Gospel of Luke, we hear a parable, a story with a meaning, of Jesus talking about the lost sheep or the woman's lost coin. And in the story that Jesus tells us today, he reminds us that, quote, there is joy in the presence of the angels of God. There is joy in the presence of the angels of God when a person turns to follow the light. And I rather like this phrase, joy in the presence of the angels. It gives me a very visual image of those heavenly beings in which I very much believe, but have very little proof of their existence. And Scripture is not much help here. Scripture doesn't give us a lot of details about what angels do when it's just them, when it's no mixed company. We have to imagine for ourselves, what are the angels doing when they're all letting their wings down behind those closed doors at the end of another angelic day? Surely among the celestial choir, one could imagine an inner angels-only sanctuary, one where there is joy constantly. A sanctuary where Michael and Gabriel and Raphael and all the others take off their halos, hang them up on the shelf, and sink into deep cloud-like sofas. They pass the little cherubs around and pinch their cheeks. They bounce them on their knees, and it's just the angels. They don't let anybody else in. And here among just themselves, they no doubt do what so many of us do when we come home at the end of a long day and collapse with our loved ones, or make a phone call to an old friend to say, get a load out of this one. And here in today's gospel, St. Luke imagines just such a scene for us. And he imagines it as one of great joy. This is the locker room after the victory match. This is the ticker tape when peace is secured, when war is no more. This is the fanfare of just one small thing, a tiny thing really, a person turning again to God. And such joy fills that room. Such rejoicing, just a tiny little bit of resurrection. That's all it takes. Just a glimmer, just a haypenny, just a shard of light breaking through, and you find yourself with such very, very happy angels. Meanwhile, the prophet Jeremiah imagines God alone on God's throne, looking down on all of creation and seeing nothing but chaos everywhere God looks. And God sees as Jeremiah sees, or rather Jeremiah sees as God sees, and there is no goodness, nor any rejoicing. There is no happiness, no laughter to be done. One thinks of this God sitting alone on God's throne, all the angels locked in their angels-only sanctuary, and maybe God could use a couple angel gestures to cheer themselves up, but that's not the God that we have at this point in the story. We have God looking down on chaos and dismayed and telling us that light has gone out and there is no hope. At this point, God is seeing creation, the creation made by God's own almighty hand, the potter at the wheel. God sees all of creation as a wasteland full of chaos, a land of desolation from one end to the other as far as the Holy See can see. This is hard to hold together with joy. But difficult as it has been, I've been holding these two words, chaos and joy, with me for a time, maybe a season. Surely our own time is filled with weeping, personal, public, private, political, and many a reason to mourn as well. And surely, too, our own time is also filled with joy, deep down joy, deeply personal. Publicly celebrated or quietly observed, there is joy and relief, and perhaps even comfort for the simple gift found in a busy day with a complicated set of dynamics that don't seem to go together and yet are all here. Most of the time, this can be beautiful. When there's enough light to see it, it can be a thing of beauty. Oftentimes, it's just hard, and sometimes it's just plain confusing. And yet we hold these opposites. We hold these dynamics that don't go together. We hold two contradictory truths. Maybe it's simply your truth and my truth. We hold them as interrelated matters of faith and of our relationships with ourselves, with one another, and with God. Not everything makes sense. Lately, I'm finding that less and less does, and on my note cards tally of things I'm in control of and things I have zero control over whatsoever, the chaos side of the card outweighs the orderly one by quite a magnitude. But it doesn't outweigh my joy. In its best iteration, a sanctuary. This one, the one in your mind's eye, the one we long to be in, the one where the angels gather. In its best iteration, a sanctuary can be a place where we hold contradictory truths, where we hold things together that don't seem to go together and find a way. And in this sense, a sanctuary is a chaotic place. It's a bit like, well, the image I've had in my mind this week is like a children's playroom, a romper room for those of us old enough to remember, where chaos reigns and where we learn the importance of play again and again. Play is so important to us humans. As we grow from the four-legged animals we once were, crawling around and wrestling like all the other four-legged animals do, into the stiffer, upright, two-legged ones we call adults, we sometimes lose our ability to play. We forget how play is joy in chaos. But if the sanctuary is a playroom, then we get to race down the aisle laughing when others wish we would just sit still. In the sanctuary that is a playroom, we remember that play is how we learn best. It's how we develop. It's how we grow. It's how we test our relationships. It's how we go away and come back. Play is fun. It's a place where two things that don't seem to go together fit perfectly together. It's a cardboard box, of course, and it's a rocket ship that's going to take you to Mars. It's that old jungle gym in the middle of a sand pit, but it's also a medieval castle surrounded by lava you can't touch, and if you do, you're out. Play can be for adults too, and it can be all sorts. It can be things that are for consenting adults only. It can be a recreational senior softball team. It can be that pickleball phenomenon that maybe one day one of you will explain to me is not just lazy tennis, but that I just can't get over. Work, even work, can be play when we revel with our colleagues, when we join together with our teammates, when we find new ways to do old things. Parenting may be the most chaotic experience ever. And I know many a parent who still describes it as the most joyful experience ever. Play for us can be a great joy. And the divine play that gives the angels their laughter is such that our imaginations reach closest to God when we imagine, what if? In a world where chaos threatens to feel all around us, where tragedy or loss or violence or war, where brokenness seems to overwhelm, The lesson of Jesus' parable today is that it takes just one thing for chaos to flip to joy among the angels. Just one thing. One lost coin, a penny, a nickel, nothing much at all can return a fortune. A phone call from an old friend you haven't heard from in years can return a relationship. One bit of loss brought to the light and seen as one bit of found, that can return joy. It's a playful, funny thing. It may not be intuitive to us. I think it once was. I think those young ones who went downstairs with Sarah and Matt know it better than we do. There's a getting back that is possible. There is a joy in this for us humans. It's the chaos of unknowing and of holding. It is the joy that God is God and we are not. The freedom that there is a wisdom that surpasses all human understanding. And guess what? We don't have to try. That wisdom, which surpasses all human understanding, that wisdom will guard our hearts and minds. And that wisdom will restore to us the joy of God's salvation. Out of the watery chaos, God called the world into being. Out of the dusty mess of the earth, God formed us and breathed the breath of life into us. Even amidst the chaos of today, whatever it is, maybe you don't have any, God promises joy that has the angels ready to rejoice and remind us whenever we're ready to take a chance. Stop working so hard and play. The angels do. Hold joy and chaos more lightly together. Find the things that don't look like they go together and see what happens when they do. Find the joy in the chaos and laugh at the chaos that comes in the joy. And may we all dance in the rain.